Hi there, lovely viewers, and welcome to Get Well, Stay Well on Revelation TV. As always, you're joined by me, Cyrus Fernando, and delighted to be on set with our lovely Felicity. How are you doing?
Hi there, Si. I'm doing really well, and we've got, again, such an interesting program today. You remember the film The Truth About Cancer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, there was a Professor Daniel Newsom who took part in that.
Yes.
And he's a great friend of Ty Bollinger, and, you know, this group have all got together in an amazing way to come out with the truth. And interestingly, this guy got his first degree in Madrid.
Okay.
At Madrid University.
Fantastic.
So I thought it was really interesting to have a look at the stuff that he's doing. And he's talking about something that really works like the electricity in our bodies. It's called the amazing fulvic acid. Has anyone heard of fulvic acid? I don't know. Yeah. Not many of us have.
No, yeah.
Anyway, fulvic acid is, it acts like a stimulator in the body. It's a chelator and it's an antioxidant. Right. And so, you know, when years ago, when we had the food straight from the ground, you would eat a certain amount of probably dirt because you weren't actually washing as much as you used to. And lo and behold, you know, all dirt is not bad for us. Some of it is like a probiotic, in fact, and we need to have that. So when we have things that are all too pure and scrubbed and cleaned, then we're losing this these special micronutrients that actually form in the gut. You know, we've had Dr. Mark Hyman talking about the microbiome and how we make good microbiome bacteria and bad ones. And so we take acidophilus and we take probiotics to try and stimulate the body back when we've had, say, antibiotics.
Yes.
And that's destroyed the good gut bacteria.
What are the consequences there? Tell us a little bit about the antibiotics. What are the side effects? What are the consequences?
Well, you know, we all thought how wonderful antibiotics were when they first came out, and it was Sir Alexander Fleming back in the 30s who was experimenting and suddenly was growing this penicillin in a mold, you know, and they discovered that, lo and behold, this mold actually cured viruses and bacteria, well, bacteria mainly. And so that was the discovery of penicillin, and everyone said, wow, this is amazing, now we're going to be able to cure people from all kinds of difficult diseases. But what has happened, actually, is that the antibiotics have been used so much for quite minor things. You know, you have a tooth out and the dentist says you must have a dose of antibiotics after this. And unfortunately, people have got really immune to the antibiotics. Another thing is that when people eat animal food, and the animals have been treated in their lifetime with antibiotics, although we might not think we're taking an antibiotic, of course we are consuming the antibiotic that the animal has consumed.
Yes.
So this was a whole new world for people. They had no idea about that. That's another of the reasons why I like the plant-derived food rather than the dead animal protein.
Tell us a little bit about some of the films that are currently being released at the moment. I remember a long time ago, we obviously talked about The Truth About Cancer, and since then, many other films and documentaries have been released talking about the importance of staying healthy. How important is it that we're continuously educated in our health?
Well, I think it's wonderful that these films are coming out because they're fun to watch. You know, they're really interesting. It's not like sitting down to a really heavy documentary, you know. Yeah. And these filmmakers are really very clever, and they're making them into really interesting, almost like a feature film.
Yeah.
And so films like I Thrive, which is about getting rid of diabetes. There's one on the sacred plant, which was about hemp. Lots of different films. I think the Broken Brain. Do you remember that we did with Mark Hyman, which was on how he actually found that his memory wasn't working properly. He was, you know, a young doctor and working dreadfully hard, and discovered he was getting sort of memory loss and brain fog, and so he actually had to get himself well, and he ended up making this film Broken Brain.
Yeah, I mean, I remember several years ago on Get Well, Stay Well, we started covering Joe Cross, Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, Food Matters, and then for a while there weren't many other films released in the mainstream talking about health. And only recently are they all coming out all of a sudden. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that there's been such ill health, especially in the American population, who are much more into the processed foods than anybody else, really, although Britain's a close second. But I think that people have become so ill, and so it really is a topic of public conversation now.
Yes.
Yes. Someone's diabetes or someone's heart disease or statins, should they be on statins or not? You know, should they have vaccinations or not? I think with the autism in children, for instance, you know, and the attention deficit disorder, all these different things that are happening. And so I think people have started to get really interested in health.
So we're going to be talking about fulvic acid today. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, as I say, it comes from the Himalayas, funnily enough, and I did a really interesting bit of research up there looking at the apricot kernels.
You did a bit of research up there, what, in the Himalayas?
In the Himalayas, absolutely. I went there and did it, and I had my daughter with me. It was great fun.
Amazing.
So, you know, you saw these really healthy people, 100 plus, who are, you know, walking around carrying great bales of sticks and hay and stuff, and really you don't get onto the town council until you're over 100, because they reckon you don't know anything till at least you've been here 100 years. Isn't that interesting?
Wow, that is fantastic.
So they really revere age, you know, like the Chinese do.
Yeah.
They revere age.
Yes.
I better move to China, I think. Anyway, it's all interesting, and yeah, it was just brilliant that he discovered that this fulvic acid actually acts like a chelator in the body and gets our energy going.
Fantastic. So let's have a look at our first item, the benefits of fulvic acid.
Chelator being that it delivers nutrients, delivers compounds to the cells, and takes the trash away. Okay, so it'll deliver the groceries and take the garbage away. Okay, and then it also, number two, it increases your molecular oxygen content. Okay, your body's oxygen stores increase with the use of fulvic, which also increases your cellular voltage. Okay, your electrical capacity goes up with your oxygen levels. Okay, the longer a cell maintains its proper electrical charge, the longer it lives. The moment that charge starts, as soon as the battery runs out, it dies. Okay, so as long as we can keep that battery charged, the cell stays alive. Okay, it's super important for anti-aging. You know, when it comes to anti-aging effects and looking for in anti-aging medicine, we got to keep that charge going in that cell so it does. You know, the battery doesn't run out. The moment the battery runs out, the cell dies. Okay, and we have enhancement of microbes and enhancement of enzymatic functions in the body. With that, you know, recapping, we're enhancing the environment to grow those aerobic or oxygen-breathing microbes, number one. Number two, we're acting as a catalyst and also increasing the performance and quantity of catalase, the enzyme catalase, in all of the cells, so in all the tissues, so that our enzymatic functions perform at a higher rate and in harmony. And then lastly, it's the antioxidant capacity that fulvic has. You know, not only can it quench free radicals by donating electrons to them, it also can absorb a free radical, switch it around, convert it into a nutrient, and donate it somewhere if it needs to. You can deliver that nutrient then someplace. Or it can take the energy away from a free radical, causing the free radical to collapse and disappear.
Very, very interesting. Now that's fulvic acid. Felicity, describe, what does it actually look like?
Well, it's just a substance that they've discovered in the dirt, basically. So it looks like dirt. You know, there's people can actually take this thing in that form, or you can take it in a droplet form. So they're actually making it into quite a nice, clean little bottle that, it looks completely clear, and you drop a few drops into the water and you can drink it like that.
Right.
And there are various different ones. We're not going to mention any names on here, but if people go on Google, of course, and any of the search engines, have a look and see what they can actually get. So there's different kinds in America, different kinds in Britain as well. So have a look and see. And it fires the mitochondria. We've heard of mitochondrial disease.
Yes.
And so this is when the battery is not working properly and your energy is being, well, it's, as he says, the battery's dead, but you can, the great thing is, get well, stay well, you can revive the mitochondria.
Yeah.
So this is a great way to do it.
So how important is this that we include this within our diet as a additional supplement, for example? How often should we be consuming it?
Well, if you take minerals and vitamins, usually you'll find that fulvic acid is in there. It's just a matter of reading the small print, which is we're all so bad at. When we're in the shops as well, we don't always read all the small print on the processed foods, and when we do, we get such a shock, don't we? But I think probably the most important thing is to realize that it actually oxygenates the body. So, I have a little machine, little tiny machines the size of a smartphone, and that actually exudes the most beautiful, it's an oxygen concentrator. So it's silent, it works beside me as I'm working on my computer at home. By my bed at night, you just switch it in. It's a little electrical thing, and it's silver. And it was created by a very clever British inventor, which is nice that we have something British on the show.
Yeah.
And his name was Neil Stenterford, and he's produced this thing which has helped people so much, people with lung problems, with insomnia, with, the sleep apnea that people get at night. And basically it just creates lovely oxygen around you, but without any sound. It's just like a very, very quiet waft, I think you're aware of, but nothing to keep you awake at night.
Interesting.
So couples have found that, if one of them is not well and they get this little machine, then in fact the two of them who are in the same bedroom are getting the benefits of it, and it really has helped people. So that's a little oxygen concentrator, so you can do it in that, or you can get the obviously the fulvic acid in the liquid.
Excellent. Now, we're obviously talking about staying healthy and consumption and what we're eating with our diet, but also exercise is so important as well.
Well, it is, and I was really excited when I found this, because I know you're always interested in the psychological side of things, and how this TED Talk, I quite like the TED Talks, because they're well filmed, and the films have to be a good quality for you to accept them to have on the show. So here's this TED Talk, and there's this guy with Crohn's disease, which a lot of people have. A lot of my get well, stay well people, worried about Crohn's and celiac disease. Anyway, he's got this awful Crohn's disease, and the Mayo Clinic have been looking after him for years, and never gone away, it's still there. And he starts to remember when he was a boy, he loved to ride a bicycle. And anyone who's got inflammatory bowel disease will know that riding a bicycle is probably not the first thing you're going to think of. But anyway, he decides he'll get a bicycle out and he'll go for a little ride. And he enjoyed it so much. The next day he rode a little bit further, and you can guess where the story's going. He ends up and he's better.
Amazing. Okay, so let's have a look at this now. Riding a bicycle.
I've got Crohn's disease. The official term, I'm told, is duodenal Crohn's with stricturing disease. It's made my life miserable. In 2007, I had a couple of surgeries. The disease spread very, very rapidly after the surgeries. In 2008, both doctors here at Mayo Clinic and doctors at Virginia Mason Medical Center in Seattle said, if the disease continues to spread the way that it has, you won't be able to absorb any nutrition in 3 to 5 years. It was a pretty miserable time in my life. Most of my feeding was done through a backpack and a PICC line through what's called TPN. I don't even know is it a Latin or English name for it? I just knew that the backpack was my friend because it fed me. So what did I do? I did what anybody who is terminal or has been told that they're terminal does. I went for a bike ride. First, about a block, because I was very weak. Next day, 2 blocks. Third day, around the block. And after some months, I was riding for some miles. After a couple of years of riding like that, and I made a few changes in my diet, but fairly minor, after a few years of that, I was able, against medical advice, sorry, Dr. Party, if you're here, to take myself off of the really massive immunosuppressants that I were on. And they were kind of dangerous, and they didn't really have any bad side effects for me, so it didn't matter that much. I just didn't like the idea that I was taking them. So I took myself off of them, left only an acid reducer, and that was it. And since then, I've been getting better and better and better. I still have Crohn's disease. It's a chronic disease that we live with forever, and there's a flare here and there. But for the most part, I'm better, and I attribute the life-saving to the bicycle. This is Laura and Sam. They both have Crohn's disease. They're married. Sam had what he believes to be life-saving surgery here at Mayo Clinic, and he's insanely grateful for the help that he's gotten. And so they wanted to find a way to give back through the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So what did they do? They went on a bike ride. Though this time, the bike ride was from Seattle, Washington to Portland, Maine. And these are two people who are sick during this entire ordeal, but they were determined to get to the other side of the country and to do so healthy. And by the time they got to the other end, they reported that they're way healthier. There's a story that I heard on NPR a while ago. I wish I could remember the woman's name. I only remember that she was 72, had Parkinson's disease, and her doctor put her on the back of his tandem bicycle and they went for a ride, a really intensive ride. And when she got off the bike, her symptoms had subsided. They came back over the course of a few days, and so they went on another bike ride, and they subsided again. So this woman, and it's seen from the article that you see on the screen here, they're finding that riding a bike will take care of symptoms, and if you keep doing it, you can be more or less symptom-free, have a symptom-free lifestyle or life due to the transformational nature of the bicycle. So it isn't just a recreational toy. I think of it as a pretty cool tool.
Very interesting. Cycling is a pretty cool tool. That is so interesting, the way the mind works psychologically as well, especially when you're ill.
Distraction from pain,
Yes.
I think, yes. And when we are passionate about something, you know, you hear about people lifting cars off a child.
Yes.
That, you know, they've unfortunately hit this child and they lift the car with superhuman
Yes.
strength, which I'm sure comes from God. But, you know, it's amazing what we can do. And I just remember, it took me back to when I was having my babies, which is quite a painful process.
Yeah.
And in fact, I learned something called psychoprophylaxis,
Okay.
which really worked well. And it was to do with your breathing and going through labor at various times. You had a plan that you were going to follow with your breathing.
Yes.
And I can only tell you that it really does help. And so when you're distracted, when you have a passion to do something, you know, you can actually, I think the mind can overcome not excruciating pain, obviously, like when my son's leg was hanging off. But,
Of course.
you know, you need,
course.
give me the morphine sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it is amazing how the mind with this man overcame his pain and his discomfort.
Yes.
And he actually got better because he was able to take some exercise. And you know how often we guard pain, you know, say we've got a pain in the appendix or something, you know, you guard it.
Yeah.
And in fact, they say that all pain is blocked energy. Now that's interesting because we've just been talking about energy with
Yes.
Dr. Newsom as well. So it sort of all fits in, and I love to put these programs together so we can develop the theme. So I want to say that, you know, when we have God in our life, when we can pray about things, you think what Jesus went through on the cross, extreme pain, you know, we can, if it's for a reason, if it's for something that we're actually doing, or in a war zone perhaps, and you have to go in and do something really frightening and risk your life.
Yeah.
But, you know, you get this sort of adrenaline surge to do it, don't
I mean,
you?
do we underestimate the power of our brain, the power of our mind, we hear about the subconscious mind as well, and what everything we see, and that's why I guess as parents, we're so interested in, or we see it so important, the kind of material our children are watching on television.
Absolutely.
The kind of computer games that they're playing.
Yes.
Because whether we like it or not, it's a poison that's entering their brains, into their minds. So if they're watching something on television that they shouldn't be watching, that is polluting their mind subconsciously.
Absolutely, and it's done subliminally, and apparently there are signs that you can see.
Yes.
Very interesting. I've just been researching on this, actually, and you can see certain words coming up. When you know they're there, you can actually see them every time.
It reminds me, Felicity, of a television program I watched, and it was talking about the subliminal messages. And it was one of the on the terrestrial channels, and this gentleman got this person to take a ride from one part of London to the other, and they had, through this taxi ride, he had planted certain messages on a bus stop, and all the way along. And by the time he entered to the end of his journey, he just gave this person a blank piece of paper, and he says, "I want you to do something on this drawing. I'm not going to give you any ideas, and I've got an envelope here, and I know what you're going to draw." This person just randomly drew out what he said, and he had sketched out a zoo, the entrance of a zoo. And what had happened is this person had put subliminal messages throughout London of this person taking this taxi journey, half an hour journey. And without that person even realising they were looking at these messages, all this information was going into their mind. So when they had to draw out this sketch, it ended up being the same as the person had predicted or presumed it would be. And so we have to be conscious and careful of what we're watching, what we're looking at, because we really don't know what is polluting our minds.
Oh, absolutely. And when you see mainstream media, you see the advertising on it is so violent, and I'm appalled that the children are playing these violent games as well, killing people, you know. And it's sort of turned into an ordinary game. Well, now, we would never have had that years ago.
I think the scary thing is now we've got the wonders of high definition, 4K, 4 HD, and now you've got the glasses, so you're actually inside the actual game itself.
Yes.
And you feel you're really part of it.
Yes.
So if a young person was to be in a situation, if they saw a gun or something like that, it wouldn't be a big deal for them anymore.
No.
Because it's very normal for them. Whereas when I was growing up as a child, we didn't have all this distractions.
And I think that's what's happened, you know, with the shootings in America, which of course are associated with the drugs that people are on, the psychotropic drugs that children are put on so young and needlessly. And so you have this horrible violence as well. And, you know, we go back to Western medicine where they have completely forgotten about the power of the mind, you know? And so when people are told, for instance, you have cancer, you know, what that does to the body, the body chemistry, and then you're told, okay, now you're completely clear, we got it wrong, and in fact, you haven't got cancer. So, you know, somebody's over the moon and can go out and, you know, play a game of football or whatever because they're just so pumped.
Okay. Okay, well, let's look at our final item for today. This one's talking about foods we need to be avoiding.
Margarine. Margarine has long been heralded as a healthier option to butter. However, the sad truth is, neither of them are very good for you. Margarine's claim to fame was that it contains no cholesterol and was also higher in good fats that help reduce your LDL or bad cholesterol. Unfortunately, it's not that straightforward, as margarine is made out of trans fats, which are known to clog arteries and cause cardiovascular disease just as much as butter does. Apples. More specifically, uncertified American apples. In 2012, the European Food Agency banned apples from being sold in the EU that had been treated with a substance known as DPA. DPA is applied to almost all apples grown in America and allows farmers to store their apples for months at a time without going off. The real problem here lies with a study conducted by two British scientists in 1956. They reported that a chemical used in the production of DPA produced liver cancer, lung cancer, and a long list of other medical problems when tested on rats. When the EU challenged apple farmers about this, they couldn't produce any real evidence to counter the study, so the EU banned them for safety reasons. Microwave popcorn. Many people think popcorn is a healthy snack, but the sad truth is, unless you make it yourself, it's probably absolutely covered in fat, oil, sugar and salt, which we all know are not that good for us. Despite this, microwave popcorn is even worse for you. The microwavable bags are coated with PFOAs, a chemical that is directly linked to cancer. Palm oil. You might not have heard of palm oil, but chances are you definitely have eaten or used some of it. Palm oil is a vegetable oil derived from the palm fruit, grown from African oil palm trees. Over 50 million tons of palm oil is produced every year, supplying over 30% of the world's vegetable oils. Being a veggie oil, it obviously isn't that great for your health, but palm oil's real damage is done to the environment, animals and local people. In order to produce palm oil rapidly, producers have to burn down and destroy huge patches of forest so they can plant African oil palm trees. This obviously has a devastating impact on biodiversity. Currently, a third of all mammal species in Indonesia are considered to be critically endangered as a consequence of palm oil. Just take a look at orangutans, for instance. In the last 20 years, 90% of their habitat has been completely destroyed. If we don't stop consuming and producing palm oil at such a rapid, unsustainable rate, countless unique and beautiful animals will cease to exist under our own watch.
Very, very interesting. Some foods we need to be avoiding. Are there any more, Felicity?
Definitely, it's the sweet drinks, it's the sugary drinks, it's the sweets that are so bad. And remember, SOS, it's the wrong sugars, oils and salts. And if people check on that, that's going to really help them.
And there are substitutes as an alternative?
Of course, yes. And, you know, we get back to dates and raisins and all the natural sweet things that we can have instead. So it's really important. And, of course, the margarine was marketed so strongly. And that's why everyone started using those creamy fats instead of the real butter. So we're better to go back to the good old, maybe Irish butter. How about that?
Felicity, we've come towards the end of today's programme. Thank you so much indeed, as always.
It's been great, Si.
Thank you so much also to our lovely viewers for joining us today on Get Well, Stay Well. Do remember, if you enjoyed this programme, then we have a catch-up service. Simply log on to our website, www.revelationtv.com. We're also on social media. Please check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Just simply type in Revelation TV. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.